Hello everyone, I am extremely excited because in today's video I'm going to be doing something that I've never done before, which is taking film pictures for a professional football team, and that team is Hibernian FC. So, Hibernian FC is one of the two clubs here in Edinburgh. I am lucky enough to be able to shoot 2 days with them. So the first day is actually tomorrow, where I'm going to be shooting a training session, and the other day is later this week. I'm going to be taking pictures of an away day, so I'm actually going to be documenting a whole football match, which I'm very excited about. So I decided I'm going to break this video up into 2 parts. The first part is this one, it's about the training session. Second part will be about the football game, which I'm doing next week. So I am very excited, but also aware that I need to take precautions and I really need to plan and get ready. So obviously I've done some planning already, but I've still got a few last minute decisions that I need to make. So I thought first we could start with choosing what gear and what equipment I am going to be using. So onto the gear. I've decided to pack not too much equipment for the first shoot. I just don't think I'll be needing a huge range of cameras. So I decided, I think I'm going to be bringing my Canon A1 with a 28mm lens on it. I can't imagine using this camera that much just because it's a very wide angle lens and I'm not exactly too sure in what situation I'd need that. I've also got a 50mm lens which I'll be bringing too, but for me this is more for behind the scene photos or just sort of pictures maybe of the actual training ground as a whole. And then for the main camera, I'll probably just bring my Praktica 35mm that you saw in my expired film video. Link will be in the description. Simply because that camera has got the 70 to 200mm zoom lens on it, which will definitely be helpful for getting close-ups. Obviously I won't be able to get right up close to the players while they're training, so having that sort of lens will definitely be very helpful. And other than that, I don't think I'll be bringing anything else, to be completely honest. I don't think I'll need more than that. Now when it comes to film, I'm actually going to be bringing Kodak Ultramax 400, just because it's 400 ISO, it's reliable, it's flexible, I'm just comfortable using that sort of film. I also agreed with the media team that they wanted the definite film look, so I don't really have to worry about getting something like portrait that's got really fine grain. The idea is that these pictures really look like they were shot on film, so obviously a film like Ultramax is a bit better because the grain's often a bit more visible and the colours give that more film look, in my opinion. I've also got a roll of black and white film, it's 400 ISO as well. Whether or not I'm bringing this, I'm not too sure. I'll probably pack it anyway, but I'm more likely to use this for the actual game day that I'm doing Sunday. So yeah, I'll bring it anyway just to be sure, but I'm most likely to be shooting mostly Ultramax on my Praktica 35mm with the 70 to 200mm lens. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm going to bring, so I'm going to pack all that, and now it's time to head off to Easter Road. So it's been a few days, and I thought instead of just showing you all the clips, I would sort of talk through the day and then we can analyze some of the pictures together. So that morning I ran to Easter Road, met up with the media team, and we all jumped in the car and drove to HTC, or Hibs Training Centre, which is roughly around half an hour away from Edinburgh. So once we arrived, I had a quick look around, I met up with some of the team, and then we went to our little office where I got all my gear ready. So I wanted to first of all say that when I went to the training centre that day, it was more for me to sort of test the waters with this sort of project. These weren't going to be the golden photos. For me, the important photos were the ones taken on the actual match day. This was a way for me to get used to the cameras I was using, take some pictures of the team, and just get an idea of shooting sort of sport photography, something that I've never really done before. So I ended up using the Praktica camera for about 90% of this shoot, just because of that lens I was going on about, the 70 to 200mm, which I just thought would be more useful, and I wanted to try it out properly Anyway, so after loading the camera, I went out to the actual training pitch, and one of the boys from the media team was showing me around and sort of telling me where they're probably going to be training. That way I could get into position when they come out. So after that, they did come out and I started taking pictures. But before we get into the pictures, I want to mention a few things. So as I said, I was mostly using the Praktica that day. So most of the pictures are from that camera. I have got a few pictures from my Canon A1. I'll be showing those at the end of this video, just because there's not that many. There's no point me going through them individually. I'll just go through them very briefly at the end of this. Now, this is where the problems arise. As I said, I was using the Praktica a lot more, which has got a sort of interesting way of loading the film. It's nothing out of this world. It's just I'm not really used to that kind of system. Basically, you pull out the film leader and instead of inserting it into a sort of slit, you put it through a metal clip and then load the film that way. It's not hard, it's not rocket science. However, there's this one little bit of plastic that the film has to go behind in order for it to properly hook on to the sprockets. And you could probably tell where I'm going here. I didn't necessarily know that. I didn't realize that at all when I shot this first roll. So as you can expect, these images aren't great at all. So having a look at them here, as you can see, the images themselves are fine. Just a few issues. Starting off was the double exposures, sometimes triple, quadruple. I don't know how many exposures ended up being on some of these frames. I believe 19 pictures were taken, so 19 out of 36. I'll let you do the maths of how many exposures caught on some of these pictures, but yeah, that's definitely very annoying. I actually don't mind a few of them. This one, where there's two players and then you can actually see the manager in the background and you sort of, the composition makes it so that he's in their heads, which I think is quite sort of symbolic and quite arty. I don't mind that one at all, but yeah, most of these aren't usable. In fact, I'd say the only two actually that I wouldn't necessarily mind using, there's the one that I just showed here, and then this one here, where some of the legs from another exposure are present, but they're sort of in the background, a bit blurry. It could be sort of artistic once again, but I'll show you some of the other pictures now. Basically, the film, I believe, did not load properly. That's my fault. I didn't check 100% how to use this camera. I'd shot a roll or two even on this camera before and they went fine. But yeah, I obviously didn't go behind that tiny little bit of plastic at the bottom, so it didn't load onto the sprockets, which is super annoying because I'm actually pretty happy with the rest of these images in the sense of how they turned out as individual frames, but obviously not much I can do about that. What would I do in the future to avoid this? Well, first of all, I would definitely have shot more rolls in this camera just to feel completely comfortable, especially that I knew in advance that the loading system was a bit weird. I probably should have trusted my gut instinct and potentially not used this camera, or at least not use it as my main camera for that day. Just because on something that's a bit more professional like this, you don't want that risk. And second of all, I should probably have taken more pictures of the Canon. Now, I'll get to those in a minute, but because I didn't have a zoom lens, I just didn't want to waste a whole roll or two on taking wide angle frames. And that's not because I didn't want to waste film. I just thought the images weren't that great. A few of them I'm happy with, but most of the time, if the players were 30 meters away on a 28mm lens, you're not really going to get any worthy images. So yeah. Now, obviously, this is one of the things about shooting on film. You're never really going to know what you're going to get until the end, and there's obviously risks that you won't get with digital images. This, for example, would never have happened. So yeah, I'm not just obviously blaming the medium of film, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. If you are doing projects like this, make sure that whoever you're working with does realize that there's these small margins where stuff like this could go wrong, and there's not necessarily always the fault of the photographer. In this case, I probably should have loaded the film a bit more carefully maybe, or at least properly looked into what I was doing. So, is this project ruined? Have I been dropped by Hibs? No, thankfully. As I mentioned, I've got a game day Sunday, and now that I know what went wrong with that camera, I feel much more comfortable using it for this project. Now, you're probably thinking, why on earth would you use this camera again for another project if you know the risks that are linked with it? Well, the main reason is that I was so confident in that camera that it's the only zoom lens I've actually got on me right now. I just thought it was going to work, and I didn't think about packing lots of different zoom lenses. So I'm going to have to use it again. Now, this isn't necessarily the end of the world, and I'm not stressed about it because, as I said, I know what went wrong and I trust my abilities to hopefully fix that. So I think that just goes to show that in the world of photography, especially analog photography, there are always risks, and it's not always going to be perfect and pretty. And that I think it's very important to communicate that with whoever you are working with, and to be not too self-critical with your own photos. I could just sit here and hate myself forever for this, but look, it was a sort of honest mistake. Looking back, I couldn't have changed much because it's not like I very quickly loaded the film or I did something badly. It's just this camera, I must say, is a bit overly complicated to load, and I'm so used to using Canons. Yeah, I am still happy with these images. I definitely will keep them. It was an amazing day. I was very thankful to be there and meet all the players, meet the team. The media team are really kind with me, and it was just a very fun day out. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about these pictures. So, as I mentioned, part 2 of this video will be actually at a football game, and I'm very excited for that, I must say. I've got a lot more roles to shoot, different cameras that I'm going to be using, and I think it's going to be a lot more successful than this week's project. But overall, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I wanted to still make it just to show that sometimes, you know, you have to find the beauty and imperfections when it comes to photography, and just trust the process. It's not always going to work, but if you explain things well, I don't always think it's going to be the end of the world. It wasn't for me. Everything's fine, and I'm still very excited to shoot next week for Hibs again. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you next Saturday for part 2 of this video.